The probably best 3-week stretch in sports is often running. The NCAA basketball tournaments are underway. It's that time of year when everybody just starts focusing on college basketball, which is kind of funny considering the lack of attention the sport gets for the majority of its season. Starts too early, lost amongst the holidays, lost amongst college football and the college football playoff, lost amongst the NFL, just completely swallowed up by the NFL, especially when the NFL playoffs begin. But this is its time. This is its time. And it bears repeating that what we are going to experience over the next 3 weeks is a period in which hardcore fans are all in, casual fans are all in, and even non-fans are invested because everybody fills out a bracket. Everybody participates in it. And it's just a really cool thing. I said it before. It's American. It is one of the most American things we have, at least in the world of sports. And I dig it. I dig it. I love it. But when you have America and you talk about the United States, you talk about freedom of speech, and there's always controversy. There's some kind of argument or debate. Maybe that's the best word, debate. And right now, the debate that's manifested after the very first games, the first 4, literally, we have this debate over how injuries should factor into where teams are seated. Should an injury to a player be considered when it comes to placing a team on a certain line, or even including that team in the field entirely altogether? Right now, this is what's popped up. B.J. Edwards of SMU, by all accounts, he was going to be ready to play against Miami of Ohio in their first 4 game on Wednesday night in Dayton. He didn't. He didn't play. He wasn't ready. And Miami of Ohio won 89-79. And that's a good Miami of Ohio team. 31-0 during the regular season, stubbed their toe against Ole Miss in the MAC tournament. Still got in as an at-large. They're a good team. You don't go 31-0 unless you're a good basketball team. But people are saying, well, SMU shouldn't have even been in. They lied. B.J. Edwards is actually more injured than we thought. And 12.7 points a game, by the way, 5.9 rebounds, 4.9 assists. A good overall player, the guard, B.J. Edwards. They're saying now, they being the critics of all this, that SMU should have been more upfront, that they might have shaded, is the word, the severity of B.J. Edwards' injury. They being SMU, lost 4 of their last 5 games of the regular season without him. Still, did they hold back information with regards to the tournament? I don't know. That's hard to quantify. It's hard to justify. Injuries are so subjective for most parts. The only person who can actually tell you they're hurt or they're injured 9 times out of 10 is a player, unless there's an x-ray that shows a broken bone. If a player is injured, it's up to him to really communicate the severity of that injury. And I want to get clarity right now, before I move forward anymore, about the severity of B.J. Edwards' injury. Because, first of all, I thought SMU was a really good team. I thought they shouldn't have been in the first 4. I watched them play a few times during the year, and I was always so impressed. So how well coached they are by Andy Infeld. I thought this was a very well coached team. Love Boopy Miller. But to have this factor in and be the dominant part of the conversation, I think is really, I don't know. I think it marginalizes the season, and that's kind of the discussion. Do you judge them on their body of work, or do you factor in this injury and how they'll be going forward? And I'm looking now, and the way I'm understanding it is that B.J. Edwards had injured his ankle. Happened several weeks ago. And we know ankle injuries can linger, can take some time to heal, to get back to 100%, or at least to a competitive level. And that Andy Infeld and I guess the powers that be at SMU had misled, that's what people say, misled the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee. Now, he had said going into the game against Miami of Ohio that he didn't feel game ready. That doesn't mean that he didn't feel improvement with each passing day, and the projection was that he was going to play in that game, that first 4 game against the RedHawks. Here's what Andy Enfield said the other day. Looked good in practice, shot the ball well last couple days, was moving well, but there's a thing called game readiness, and he just didn't feel like he was quite game ready. He said, and he's quoting his player, by the way. This is Andy Enfield quoting his player. I could definitely play on Friday if we win this game. Definitely going to play on Friday, but just not quite game ready today. There you go. So it was the player, it sounds like, who said, I can't play. I can't play in this game. And that has Enfield now pushing back on the notion that he misled the selection committee, saying that Edwards would be ready for this game. Either way, I think it's much ado about nothing. I think the players, or rather the teams, need to be judged and graded and assessed on their bodies of work, on what they've done up to this point, against whom they've done it, so on and so forth. And the argument that keeps popping back up is Florida State, or rather not the argument, but the comparison that keeps popping back up is Florida State a couple of years ago, before the playoff expanded, the college football playoff expanded, when Jordan Travis, his season ended in the penultimate game, 2 games before the final of the regular season. And then the selection committee left Florida State out, even though it was undefeated and the ACC champs. Is this the same deal? I don't think so. The bodies, or the field sizes, are so much smaller, so different. 4 teams versus 68. But that's the comparison people were getting. And I think it's an antiquated train of thought myself. But it brings up the argument, and I think this is a legit consideration. You have to decide what lane you're in. Are you in the lane where you judge a team on potential, on what they can do going forward? If they were to play today, who would win, or when they play in a week, who would win? Or do you reward them for their body of work, for what they've done through the entirety of the season? It's a complicated matter, something I am having a hard time wrapping my mind around. I am of the belief that you reward them for their body of work, but I might be alone. We're going to bring Mike DeCourcy, just outstanding columnist for the Sporting News. We're going to bring him aboard. We're going to get his take on it. Ask him, how should this thing be decided? Because by and large, this is the only blemish, I think, in the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee's work this year. That because I thought SMU should have been seated higher, and if this injury to Edwards, even though they knew he was coming back, if it factored into them putting them in a first 4 game, I'm wondering that. Other than that, I think they've done a marvelous job. We'll see if Mike DeCourcy thinks so, and we'll see what he thinks this thing means going forward. What are the lessons to be learned for both basketball and football? Should it be based field sizes, or rather field participants and seating? Should it be predicated upon what teams have accomplished or their potential going forward? We'll ask Mike DeCourcy of that when he joins us on the other side. Stick around.
Sports fans, it's time to gear up. Head to fanstreamsports.com and check out our brand new merchandise store. We're talking bold t-shirts, 3/4 zips, hoodies, hats, mugs, and more. Everything you need to rep your favorite shows and your favorite crew. Whether you're rolling with the J.P. Peterson Show in Tampa Bay, From the Rough in Dallas, the Tim May Show featuring Clay Hall, or the Jeff Thidoff Show in Ohio, or any of our Fanstream Sports original programming, we've got the perfect look for game day and every day. So don't wait. fanstreamsports.com. Click merch and grab your gear now. Wear the stream, live the stream. fanstreamsports.com.
Let's go.
Right now, back to the show on FanStream Sports.
And as the game's getting ready to begin, some games going on right now, the big news, as usual, is something overshadowing actual competition. It's injuries, how they should play into seeding. Should they play into selections? How do you prove if there's an injury, if a team's being disingenuous, if not? The situation with B.J. Edwards right now with SMU, obviously at the forefront of that discussion. And I'm going to get into this conversation right now with one of the best in the business. And it's been a long time. Mike DeCourcy of the Sporting News, I appreciate you coming on today, sir. I know you're slammed. I know you're busy. It's Thursday of NCAA tournament. How many Thursdays does this make for you, by the way?
38, actually. This will be my 36th Final Four, and I covered 2 tournaments where I wasn't in position to finish it off. So 38 first round sites for me.
So you've seen it all, and is this a new thing a new discussion we're having with regards to these injuries? I don't think it should factor in. I think your body of work during the season should be the deciding factor, but there's an outcry now that, people, you need to be more transparent, and they referenced the Jordan Travis thing in college football. Just kind of lay out the land with this situation, and how do you think it should be judged?
Well, the Jordan Travis thing was everything wrong with the 4-team college football. Well, it wasn't everything, but it was a lot of what was wrong because you had a group of people in a room judging that an undefeated team was somehow deficient. That's preposterous. And not an undefeated team playing high school ball, but in a major conference that has produced national champions. So we had this year an essentially controversy-free NCAA tournament bracket. And the committee has updated so many of its standards and so many of its metrics and methods of judging this. And they've gotten to the point now where they're really good at it. And yet somehow the clinging to this preposterous standard that if you are injured, you are diminished it's beyond reason. There is no excuse for it. 26 years ago, I was covering the Cincinnati Bearcats. That was my beat. I worked for the Cincinnati Enquirer. It was my last season before I went full-time to the Sporting News. And Kenyon Martin was the superstar player on that team. He was the unanimous National Player of the Year on a team that was clearly the best in the country in terms of their number 1 overall seed. And Kenyon went to set a screen, and his leg got tangled with an opponent, and he broke his leg. And the committee said, okay, you're not a number 1 seed anymore. Now you're a number 2. Well, why? Well, Kenyon's not there. Okay, so how do you know how good they are? Well, we just know they're not as good as they were, so they have to be a 2. I mean, it was always childish and ridiculous then, and it was even more so when the fact that Lauren Woods for Arizona, who was a terrific rebounder, shot blocker, and a very important component of their offense as well, was injured that year, and Arizona went 4-2 without him. But they were still a 1 seed. Well, wait a second. 4-2 is not a 1 seed number. So why are they still a 1 seed? Well, they are. I mean, just judge them on who they are and what they've done, not on what you think they are because they lost this player. And so SMU clearly belonged in the field. I had a perfect bracket this time in terms of placement of teams. I had all 68. Am I bragging about that? I'm happy I had it, but I wasn't the only one. There were probably 150 or more on the bracket matrix that gathers all these online brackets and judges them, scores them, and averages them out so that you can get an idea of where teams will go in terms of the seed lines. And so we all had it, including the committee. They earned it, not spectacularly, but they earned their inclusion. And to now second guess it because a player might have been hurt and they may not have been fully upfront about that. You know what? If they lied, I'm glad they lied because that needs to be changed. The committee needs to have good standards, and they almost universally do now. But that one's a relic from a bygone era that should be eliminated from the process altogether.
I also had SMU. I actually had SMU higher. I thought they shouldn't have been in playing last night, but we'll litigate that another time. Mike, well, how about this then? How much does brand identity play into this? Because if we really wanted to split hairs, I would say that Duke probably could be accused of doing the same thing. We understood that Caleb Foster and Patrick Gungba would be out for the ACC tournament, but by all indications, they were supposed to be back for the NCAA tournament. Gungba's not playing in the first round.
Let me correct you there. John Shire said that he thought that Patrick Gungba would be back before Caleb Foster and that Caleb would not play again unless they went deep. And he may have mentioned the words Final Four. I don't think he did, but it certainly was intimated that we would not see Caleb Foster again until the Final Four. And it's interesting that there was no controversy whatsoever about Duke being a number one seed, knowing that they lost a starter. Well, you can say, well, they won the ACC tournament, so clearly they're still fine. But hey, the ACC tournament's not as tough as the others. Maybe Houston finishing second in the Big 12 indicated it was time for a one for them. No, I'm not saying that because I think it's a ridiculous standard and needs to be eliminated, but it just shows you, hey, Michigan didn't win the Big 10 tournament. Use them as an example. They went out and lost to Purdue. Does that mean they're not a one seed anymore because LJ Cason's hurt? That's got to go away. The only area to me where it is remotely justified is, let's say we have in this season, let's say Cameron Boozer, and since I'm not projecting anything, I'm never comfortable using current players, but okay, so Cameron Boozer, let's say we went back to January and he missed 5 games. He's their most important player, the national player of the year, but he had missed 5 games because of sprained ankle, and they lost all 5. They went 0-5. So they went from a team that was clearly a 1 seed down to a team with 3 seed numbers, something like that. Well, like, do you see them as a 1 because when they had them, they won every game? Or do you see them as a 3 because they have 3 seed numbers? I can see that, but I can't see leaving a team out because they had an injured player. And I certainly can't see punishing a team seed-wise because they have an injured player, because then we're back into the silliness of, well, you lost a bunch of games late in the season, so clearly you're not as good. And we know now that lots of teams have gone into the NCAA tournament that were struggling and then succeeded because they realized it was the end, or they had a bunch of practices and figured themselves out, or just simply that they got away from the conference that knew them super well and fresh opponents didn't. But so that area has got to change, and I'm really hopeful that this controversy will prompt that.
And Mike, my last question, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you this. It's actually a basketball question. We did see what happened between Miami of Ohio and SMU, even with SMU shorthanded. I was so impressed by what I saw. What are we to make of Miami going forward? Did they seed them properly, do you think? Should they have been playing in that first opening night, or should they have already been in the regular field?
I think that with the way the bracket was restructured by various results in other conferences, they were kind of left in a position where placing them in the first 4 was inevitable. Could you have supplanted them with someone like Missouri and not forced Miami to play another game? You could have. But Missouri won a lot of big games. They beat Florida. They beat Kentucky on the road. They had several great victories, and Miami didn't have any. And if Miami had lost, say, to Akron in its championship game, that may have changed the chemistry of their seeding a little bit. But losing to UMass was definitely a dent. I don't think you would have been reasonable for you to leave them out of the tournament, but I don't think necessarily making them play another game was unreasonable to them. If the bracket had broken a little bit differently and there was a little bit more space in it, then I think at that point, then they would have been, for me, they were the first team, the top of the first 4. They were the last team that I would have squeezed into that. The committee never fully answered that question. They did say they seeded them at the end of the field after they selected them, but I do wonder if that team had not lost to UMass, a poor team, or a middling MAC team, which equates to a poor team in the Division I landscape. I think if they had lost to someone other than that, particularly Akron, which is a terrific team, then it might have changed how that worked out.
He's the best in the business. Mike DeCourcy, you're the ultimate gamer. I appreciate you hopping on. I know this is your especially busy time of the year, and it's been a long time. I'm really thankful, buddy. Appreciate you hopping on today.
Happy to do it.
All righty. It's Mike DeCourcy. Stick around. We'll be right back. How good is Mike DeCourcy? He just rolled into Greenville. South Carolina, getting ready to watch some basketball. He's not even out of his car yet and finds a place to join us. He was fired up to talk about this topic. And I love his opinions. I'm really glad he helped me get my situation straight, my facts straight with regards to Duke, because I was sideways with Duke. I took it, and I had followed this closely, I took it that John Shire's messaging, and maybe he changed it over the last 24 to 48 to 72 hours, I took it that his messaging was that Caleb Foster and Gungba were only going to be out for the ACC tournament. He was kind of murky everything after that, regarding everything after that, but apparently he did clarify it, so I appreciate Mike straighten me out on that regard. But still, should they have been a number one seed? Should they have been the number one overall? I wonder that, but given the severity of those injuries. But either way, they were rewarded for their body of work, and that's the lane that Mike's driving in, and probably the lane I'm in as well with regards to that. It's just, I don't want this singular situation to take away from this tournament, because I think we're in for a really special tournament. I don't think it's going to be like last year when we had so much chalk where the favorites won. And I think there's enough parity out there to we could get some upsets. Maybe not a 15 beating a 2 or anything such as that, but we could see some underdogs, using air quotes, pull off some games. The elite of the elite is still outstanding, as they've been all year, but it's not a 2 or 3 or even 4 team sample size. Probably 8 I would throw elite of the elite, and I've made that contention all season. It's just a lot. That's the beauty of this tournament. They actually play it out. We get to see who is the best team in America, who the champion is will be decided on the court. And God bless, I'm so glad we have that in football now. Football's still figuring it out. Make no mistake about that. And it'll be years before it's polished anything close to the level of the basketball tournament. The basketball people have it nailed down. They've got it figured out. But I'm so glad just to have playoff formats in both sports. That's my thought. I got to go watch some ball. I want to thank Mike DeCourcy of the Sporting News for stopping by. Extremely busy guy, but one of the nicest people on the planet. Always very generous with his time. Cannot thank Mike enough. Thank you for taking in this podcast. And do what you do for podcasts, please, if you haven't already. Like, subscribe, follow, whatever you do, please do it for this one. You can hit me up on social media. Go over to Twitter, X, whatever it's called these days, at Scott H Sports. The DMs are open. Feel free to shoot me a message about maybe a topic you want me to discuss or a guest you would like me to bring on. I'll be very happy to try my best to facilitate it. But otherwise, until next time, hey, let's enjoy the season. The final part of the season, the best part of the season, the tournament. I'm out. Thanks.